we lost one of the cards this year. It broke. Now, the thing is, it's funny, we can actually pull it out and push it back in, and then it'll run for a while until it gets hot.
On New Year's Eve, just hours before the clock rolled over to 2024, I invited some of my YouTube friends onto my 9-hour marathon livestream for a quick chat. Here's some highlights from my conversation with TVJAY. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hello.
Thanks for joining. All right, we are starting this out with a quick introduction. Tell us a little bit about your channel. You have a YouTube channel, and tell us a little bit about what kind of work you do, either on YouTube or off YouTube.
All right. Well, I'm TVJAY on YouTube, as Aaron pointed out. I'm a TV engineer. I am the head of technology for a TV station that shall remain nameless. But I've been on YouTube for about 2 years, give or take. And I do streams typically once a week on a Monday or Tuesday, just talking about anything that's going on in my world. I also do radio engineering, so I do TV, radio. I'm an IT person, so I do things like networking, PF Sense. So my channel kind of has a wide range, but it's basically focused on technology and things related to technology. So
you're the networking expert we all need next year.
Possibly, yes. I'm not an expert, but
uh-oh. There we go. We got you back here.
Yeah, so my internet just died.
That was hilarious timing, right as we're talking about networks. What? Yep. And you're back on a hotspot now?
Yeah, I have a hotspot in my bag, so I just grabbed it and turned it on and connected back to it.
What timing? What silly timing?
Yep. Of course that happens like that. Why wouldn't it?
Of course. What were we talking about? Networking? We're talking about how you're going to solve our networking problems next year?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to be fair, that was a pretty good turnaround of recovery from full internet connection going down. Because honestly, like if mine goes down right now, I guess my phone is here, so I'll rig that up somehow, but it's going to take a minute to figure out.
Yeah, I mean, I have a hotspot, so I just Wi-Fi'd, it's already pre-joined. So basically I turned the thing on, and it took longer to boot up than it did for me to reconnect. Like the hotspot itself to turn on.
Yeah. Oh well. So yeah, okay. So networking. I've been chatting with people earlier, and I've now have a 10 gig network set up in here for fun, basically. But I figure it's future proofing. It's a 10 gig switch in the closet. It's a small 10 gig at that desk and back in the rack. So both of the wall jacks run back to that room. I'm hoping it's good enough to run the 2110 video off of. Technically, the switches that I'm using for this in the small ones are not in the list of supported switches from Blackmagic, so we'll see how mad I am about that later. I might have to do some reconfiguring if that's not going to work, but we'll see. So far, I've been happy about being able to copy files extremely fast to the cloud pod, which is on the desk over there, from this Mac, which is back here. So that's cool. But, I figured building out this new network from scratch in these two buildings might as well go for at least 10 gig between the things, not in every port, but at least have the 10 gig for the uplinks between things.
Oh yeah, you're going to build a new network. You might as well build it with a 10 gig backbone at least. I mean, why not? Why go anything less? It's, everyone says, oh, I want to go 2.5 gig or whatever it is. It's like, well, if you're going to go 2.5 gig,
right,
10 gig's not much more expensive. In fact, it might be cheaper in some ways. So just go 10 gig.
Yeah.
I mean, and fiber these days, the fiber cables are cheap. The SFPs are more expensive than the fiber cable, generally speaking.
I noticed that. that was concerning when I saw that. Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, the days of 10 gigs too expensive or whatever it is, I don't know. I don't buy that. I mean, I've had 10 gig in my house for probably 2 years now, if not longer. And I just buy DAC, the DAC cables, and I plug the servers in, and so everything's in 10 gig. My computer does not need 10 gigs, so I don't have 10 gig out here. But I mean, everything in the rack room, if you will, is 10 gig. So
you work at a TV station, which means you do like real things with video, not like me just putting videos on YouTube, right? So okay, I've been asking everybody what kind of gear you enjoyed using the most in 2023. But I want to know that from you. But like, talk about the gear you use in the production in a TV studio. Don't limit it to like your home studio.
Well, I can tell you right now, one of the things that will be my number one priority in the new year is to buy a new video router at work.
Mm.
Our video router is 11 years old, and this year it died. Um, when I talk about video router, I'm not talking about like a video hub. I have a 128 by 128 router
Oh my
that
god.
supports the whole building, and it has cards in it. So each card is 32 by 32, and we lost one of the cards this year. It broke. Now, the thing is, it's funny, we can actually pull it out and push it back in, and then it'll run for a while until it gets hot. So we currently have, I know this sounds just bad, the cover off and a stand-up fan that on the front of it blowing air into the system, because it's the only way we keep the router running, because if it gets hot, it crashes and we lose the 32 inputs. And unfortunately, the way our router is configured, those 32 inputs are key. So therefore, we can't just like lose that card. So my my plan for the new year, if the capital budget is approved, is to buy a new router, 128 by 128, built-in multi-viewers, and the number would probably buy you a nice house in some cities.
Oh my god. Okay. Wow.
Because we're talking about routers. We're talking about 128 by 128, 3G, if not 6G compatible, which we'll see how if we go that far or not. But we have router panels. We probably have about 12 or 15 router panels where people can choose what router sources they want. We have soft panels, which means I can go to a web page and I can route things however I want via a web page. So I mean, we take routing to the extreme as opposed to like just a video hub where you route 20 sources.
So, but this is interesting data point here, because you said 3G, maybe 6G, which is not 4K, right? So,
correct.
Are you full HD still?
We are 1080i. I would hope and plan to buy something that supports 1080p. I do not believe my station or any station will ever go 4K. I mean, there's no financial incentives. Those of you who watch my channel have heard me rant about this before. I do not see the benefits of 4K. When you have 1080p, people watch on cell phones. They're not watching in 4K. It just takes up bandwidth. It takes up storage space. Are there places where 4K makes sense? Absolutely. When you're watching the nightly news, 4K does not make sense. So therefore, I don't see an advantage. I don't see the realistic world of most people going to 4K. I do see 1080p. It's the best of both current standards with the 1080p or 1080, and then you add the P from 60p, which is based off of 720. So you combine both worlds into one, and you get a 1080p format. And given the new ATSC transmission standards, I think we can do 1080p and still have sub channels, which from my financial point of view is what will make us money and make us viable.
I love the complete contrast from Doug a minute ago, who was like, no, my studio is only 4K. I'm not going to touch anything 1080 anymore.
Yeah, there's no reason to go 4K at our level.
Yeah.
I get, Doug, if you're doing production, if I'm building a production truck, the client may want 4K. They may not need 4K, but they may want 4K. If they're paying, then you got to be able to support it. In our world, we control our format. Therefore, we dictate whether it's 1080i, 720p, or 1080p.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't want us to stop talking, but we have 3 minutes until New Year's Central Europe. So I am going to put the fireworks on full screen here until the because I have a feeling the show is going to get pretty good here in a second. But we can keep chatting about 4K all day long, because nothing wrong with that. So yeah.
And I think if you look at what Blackmagic's done with the new Constellation series where they're only HD, I think they kind of see the writing on the wall too. Like there's not a reason necessarily to go 4K. They're not supporting the 4K and the new stuff. And 2110 converters that you're just talking about, they don't support 4K.
I didn't know your video was going to have sound on it. Otherwise, I would have planned for that better. Oh my gosh, thank you. That's hilarious. Yeah, so with 90 seconds to New Year's in Central Europe, what do you think is going to be the fireworks show of video streaming next year in TV production or new product releases or anything?
Well, I mean, I'm looking around and I'm looking at, different ways of doing remotes. I mean, we use backpacks.
Mm.
It's probably time to get new backpacks at work for cellular bonded, stuff. And so therefore I'm looking at probably refreshing those. Our sat truck is getting up there in age. I like our sat truck. I'm going to keep our sat truck. And so I think we may be looking at a sat truck update or refresh. We'll see. I don't know. I mean, SRT is a big thing. I like to see what happens with SRT.
Oh, here we go.
Whether we, oh,
Three.
2, 1.
what's a good little fireworks show?
Yeah.
Looks like there's 3 different places shooting fireworks
Yeah.
off.
Yeah. Happy New Year to Central Europe.
Well, it's funny. Like, I'm so used to being behind the scenes and doing things that when I first started doing live streams, I was like, okay, this is going to be pretty easy. I mean, I'll probably have some bumps in the roads or whatnot, but like to come in front of the camera and do it, everything yourself is just so different
It is
than what I expected. It's like, holy crap, you got to be the entertainer, you got to be the producer, you got to fill the time, you got to do this. It's like you forget one thing and the stream can go awry quickly.
Absolutely. It's it's a lot. The good news is that I guess you also have the same advantage, is that your content is about live streaming. So like if I make a mistake in the stream, I can take a minute to fix it and explain what I'm doing, and that's content. It's useful to people, right? People learn something and I fix the problem. But if I'm doing a live stream about something totally unrelated, I can't just stop in the middle and take 2 minutes to fix the problem. It's like better say something, keep people busy while I'm scrambling to fix something.
Oh yeah, I had one live stream that just went completely awry, and all I was trying to do was bring in a guest via SRT, and it broke down to me literally calling the person on my cell phone, and then my cell phone wouldn't connect, so I couldn't even make a phone call out. And so
Oh my God.
people on my channel got a good kick out of that one, and I was going to delete the stream because like this is so frustrating, but everyone's like, we had a great time watching you try to troubleshoot and solve the issues and figure out, how you're going to get to work. And in the end, we did. It, it worked. It just wasn't pretty, but it did work. So I mean, people do get that's why we watch, people like you and whatnot to just kind of see what happens and learn. And so even though I didn't feel good with the live stream, the viewers did, which was all that matters.
Yeah, that was great. That was quite a show. Good fireworks. He says it's a A6400, Sony A6400. Okay. That's a solid camera still. It's not new, but it's still a solid camera for sure. Still here.
And was that a RTSP stream, or how was that getting to you?
So he was streaming to YouTube, just like a YouTube stream, and I just pulled up the YouTube stream on my Apple TV, just on the YouTube app. So like super low tech. Yeah. But it works. It works, Like just use what you have. Bailey says it'd be interesting if all the moderators of this channel did all the switching for one of the weekly shows. That'd be kind of fun. Could put that together. Do a members driven show 1 week.
I think during COVID, I tried that with well, he's not on YouTube anymore, but Conjoling Technology. I think I remoted into his ATEM and switched his show.
Oh, fun.
Just as kind of to see if I could actually do it.
Oh, actually, I did that for Joseph once. I remember that. I VPN'd into his studio and was live switching a show. I think it was a show where he was doing a live stream, but he was filming a video about a product, but then doing a live stream while filming. So I was doing the camera cuts for the video and for the live stream as he was filming, so that he could be totally hands off and actually just like talk about the thing. It worked surprisingly well. Oh, there's a question for you. You must be really happy that LiveView finally has embraced SRT. Ooh, that's a good question. Is that okay? Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we don't actually use LiveView anymore. We did when we had them. They did not do SRT. My company switched to a different brand. No, there's actually 3 popular ones. There's LiveView, DeGero, and TVU. So usually like LiveView is the name brand. It's like the Kleenex. Everyone knows, what the name. DeGero is another brand out there. They do a lot of stuff. They have a cloud platform, believe as well. And then TVU is kind of like the third place, if you will. Like they're used, but they're not as popular. Um, they're more used, I think, for like sending video from point to point, like with rack mounted gear, not so much the backpacks. So
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
I did an SRT stream with some with two other YouTubers a couple of years ago. It does work. I like it. It's definitely, in terms of resiliency and low delay, it's great. The one stream I talked about that crashed and burned, I was bringing Tony from Quick Tech Solutions in via SRT, and I wanted to test a pure SRT to SRT with no back channel, like and
Yeah,
that's what we're trying
right.
to test out, and it worked. It is a little bit delayed, but I mean, you're going from encoder to decoder and back. So I mean, you got a round trip there. But I think Zoom is also delayed in a lot of ways. Like I'm watching myself on Zoom and it's delayed to me, and it's it's not annoying, but it's definitely delayed. So I think as people get used to delay, SRT has it so short that I think it's good enough for most people. As long as you're not like watching yourself in real time.
Do you think there's a possibility that SRT will be used for the bidirectional links then? For that kind of thing?
I would say yes. I think in my testing, it's definitely doable. It's definitely usable, and I would say that would be a solution going forward that people could use. Where I have an SRT encoder and decoder, and let's say you have one, and we just send feeds back and forth, and no need for a separate back channel or Zoom or anything like that.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, it takes Zoom has got the delay down low enough that I can't tell there's a delay as we're talking, because like we're in a Zoom call right now, just like you would be in any other Zoom call, right? And we're having a conversation. I don't feel like there's a delay. There is absolutely a delay. Like if you look at the video feed in Zoom, there is a delay, but it's apparently low enough that it doesn't matter, which is great. So if anything else can approach that level of delay, then it's completely fine to use it. Like I wouldn't expect any problems, right?
Yeah, I think if you go back and watch that SRT stream I did with Tony, I think you'll see we had a perfectly good conversation, and we might have stepped over each other once or twice, but that happens in Zoom. I mean, that's getting to know the person and anticipating when they're going to talk and whatnot versus just a random interview.
It happens in real life too. So
that's true.
Yeah.
Or TV where you're doing a microwave shot where there is no delay. I mean, people just step over each other naturally too. So I think SRT is good enough that if you're doing it via hardware, I think that's the key. Because everything I've seen software wise that does SRT is delayed. Like OBS supports SRT, but man, is that delayed. And I often use vMix at my side job at a university, and so we played around with SRT there, and it's better, but it's still, I don't think it's as good as hardware. Hardware just gets it going, and there's no delay, or not as much a delay, I should say, and there's definitely not a CPU. Oh, I rolled an open, and then now the SRT stream is delayed, or I put a font in, and now like hardware just is constantly encoding at the same rate each time. So therefore, I think as long as you're doing it in hardware, I think SRT is definitely usable for a live talkback.
Okay, I mean that's good. From Nils, what is your dream setup for the basement studio?
Man, I've had so many different ideas. So yeah, I'm in my basement right now. I have a Blackmagic switcher and some other gear over here to my left, and like a little fly pack case. I would probably, the first thing I like to do is get a backdrop. I just kind of threw this together because I like to play with Legos, even though I'm 40 years old. But I like to get a backdrop. I like to get better lighting. It's funny. I have an 8-input switcher, and I only have one SDI and one HDMI input not being used. And it's just me, a camera, and a laptop. Like, it just seems like I would need a bigger switcher. Probably, but like I said, the backdrop, getting a better set is my main focus right now. I'd love to have, multiple camera angles, maybe for like a top-down shot. But although I honestly don't do demonstrations like a whole lot, most things I show are on a laptop or are just stories, or I can show with pictures. And And the one thing I really love about going to a hardware based switcher versus like OBS is slideshows. I show a lot of pictures, and
Mhm.
it's a lot easier for me to put pictures into the ATEM than it is to get OBS to do a slideshow.
It sounds like you got a lot of upgrades coming up. I hope you can justify it with with income from something. Um, Speaking of which, do go subscribe to TVJ. Link is down below. Because you passed what 1K recently?
Yeah, I'm up to like, I don't know, 1,360.
Great. Yeah. Good.
The problem I have is I don't have the watch hours because I
Mm,
live stream. I mean, I have the ability to do recorded videos. I get a lot more enjoyment out of this as a live streamer than I do editing videos or whatnot. And for me, this is all about the interaction and the experience with people and learning to be a better public speaker. And that's why I joined YouTube in the first place, was to get experience talking to people and doing live streaming and hanging out with people. And some of my best friends, these days are people on YouTube who I've met and I've watched and I talk with. And so it's more about a community than it is anything else. I'm not here for the monetization. I'd like to get monetized. Obviously, that'd be great. But so I just focus on live streaming. So unfortunately, my channel is not going to be a lot of how-to videos or
mm.
whatever it is. It's about live streaming and hanging out with people and trying things live sometimes, or a live walkthrough of whatever it is. Shameless plug, I'm going to do a live stream on Tuesday, kind of deep diving into my PF sense and
Oh,
how I
cool.
set
Yeah.
my how I set up my rules and what I do with WireGuard and the VLANs, and just so that's kind of like what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to do a walkthrough of a virtual router. I'm not going to show my real router, but I'm going to copy all my rules into a virtual one so I can show you all the stuff, and discuss it. So shameless plug, Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern.
Fantastic. Link is below. Oh, Lily says we should have a sub race. I'm at like 1,500 and also hate doing recorded videos. Yeah, she's been doing live streams every week also for like a really long time, and hates doing recorded videos, which is fair. It's a very different thing.
I will say that I have two videos that are basically really good. One is like a vmix short. I just was filming from our production trailer we have at the university, and
Mm.
it's always getting views. I don't do a whole lot of on vmix for my channel, but it's my top 3 search results for how people find my channel is vmix. So obviously I should do more vmix content, but
Only if you want to, because if you hate it, then you're not going to enjoy making the content, then it's not going to work long term. So,
true. Yeah. What I
yeah,
need to do is I need to do a new video on my wall setup, because I don't actually have a rack. All my stuff is wall mounted. So my servers and
no
my
way.
network switches
That's so
are
funny.
yeah.
I was literally just like 2 weeks ago, I made a side comment, which was like, how I have my rack here full of stuff. And if you look behind that, there's like trays that are full of like converters. And so all the wiring is just a giant mess. And I was like, if I try to go back in there and plug something in, it's like, it takes me ages to dig under the wires to get to the device. What if I just put everything up on a wall and just like fill this gray wall with gear and had all the wires like visible so you could see where everything was connected? It'd be so cool. And you've actually done that. So
Yeah, I have like 3 network switches that are wall mounted. I have 2 desktop computers that I wall mounted that are my servers.
use
Which
that
is
for
like,
your backdrop. That sounds great. That should be your backdrop.
I can go in there and I guess I could shoot from in there. It's kind of
Yeah.
noisy. It's the furnace room
Well,
and the
can
sump
you?
pump's right there.
So, yeah, I see the point. I see your point. But I think that would be a fantastic backdrop. Move all the gear out into your main room, and then
Yeah, I could do it
sit
back
10
here.
feet away from it, and it'll be fine.
My wife is going to start doing videos for her business, so I'm kind of thinking of a backdrop that's like neutral, but I haven't figured out one that I want to do. But we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. So, interesting data point as someone who has 2 completely different types of videos, right? I do like this channel where like I want you to see the rack of gear in the background and the ridiculously oversized multi-view TV there. That's the point of this channel. But like, I'm not going to go and do a OAuth training with this backdrop, right? Like, that's going to be too distracting. So I need a plain background for that. So for that, I go over to the other set, which is 90 degrees away from me, which is over here. And, that's a relatively plain background. And because I can light that wall whatever color, I can make it a different color for the other content, right? I can do like a purple background or an orange background, and it looks completely different. And even though I got the lights in the same spot, or I can even just like pull up the lights so they're not even in the shot anymore, right? So it's like that I can shoot generic stuff, and then for this shot I can have the ridiculous background with all the gear in it for this content. So same space, just two different angles, right?
Yeah, that's what I thought about here. Like I said, like similar to you, I was thinking about putting a camera over here and shooting at this wall that's open and having that be her set or whatever, having this. But the other thing I thought about was I just watched a video the other day on YouTube, and it was 3 TVs hung vertically.
Oh, I seen that one.
Yeah, and it's like, ooh, that actually looks cool too.
Yeah.
And I know we mentioned it on Discord, but like my set at work has 5 TVs for one wall and has 18 TVs in the other wall and 2 big monitor walls. We use that every day of the week. And so like, maybe I do that at home. I mean,
maybe
aren't.
You do. How many Lego sets do you have? Important question.
I have 0 Star Wars set because I am the world's worst nerd. I do not like Star Wars.
Okay. I mean, I prefer Star Trek.
I probably have, these are my 2 biggest sets I have. One's not even built yet. But I have a bunch of cityscapes upstairs, like the small Vegas, Paris, New York City, London, all those upstairs, because those are good Christmas gifts. They're fun. They don't take up a lot of space. And I've been to all those cities with the exception of London. So it's kind of cool. Like, oh yeah, there's Vegas, there's Paris, there's New York.
That's cool. I like that. That's a good way to do it. Yeah. Bailey is about to start marketing video editing services. So if anybody here is looking for an editor, be happy to chat. Maybe we can connect some dots here. Maybe you could start by, in a live stream, doing something with a rough outline, not scripted, not total video, but like something with a rough plan, and then hand it to an editor to chop segments out of to turn into a standalone video. And then you would be able to just do live streams and then also publish a video now and then.
I was actually planning on that for Tuesday's PF Sense. I've seen a couple PF Sense videos on YouTube take off, like, first video post, and they have 3,000 views in an hour, or whatever it is, those crazy stats. And I actually have a hyperdeck right here that I can do a clean feed out on my switcher. So I was going to do a clean feed out, record the clean feed of my stream on Tuesday, and then see if I could, in a half hour to an hour, edit that down to something that is watchable and concise. And if that workflow works for me, then I would probably pursue that more. Because that'd be a lot better. Or it's not better. It's more effective use of my time, and it's a lot easier than just, going to set up a camera and doing shoots. And I have the problem where if I'm pre-recording it, it has to be perfect. When I shot my first 3 videos on YouTube, I probably spent 3 or 4 hours to do a 1 or 3 minute long video. I forget how it was. And it was the first video I did in there of my wall mounted stuff. And it was like, it took me 4 hours to do a 3-minute video. Like, that's not good. And I've been editing videos since I was in college 20 years ago.
No, I totally agree. The when I was starting, I was keeping track of time spent creating the video, like start to finish total, not just editing, but like writing and filming and everything. And I very consistently at 1 hour per minute. So if I was going to make a 4-minute video, it would take me about 4 hours to make. I make a 10-minute video, it would be about 10 hours to make. And that includes writing the script, writing the outline, filming, editing. It's a lot. It's a lot of work. It's a lot more work than doing a live stream. I think what you're describing is that your idea of what a video needs to be does not actually match reality of what a video needs to be. Because if you go look at some of the top viewed videos in small niches, you might have 500K views on a video that's extremely poorly produced in terms of technical production quality, but it communicates the content effectively. And it does not need to be perfectly lit. It does not need to be perfectly paced. It just needs to get the point across well. And like, it's all in your head, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, it just.
No, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
You're definitely not wrong. I mean, it's one of those things where that's my
But
mindset. I need to change
I'm the
it,
same
but
way. And I want all my videos to be always better than they are. And they're not. So,
one feature I did learn the other day, Adobe Premiere can do closed captioning, and that saved our butt the other day at work. Just gonna throw that out there.
Interesting. Okay.
Because it can do text to speech, or speech to text, and then it can actually encode the proper closed captioning channels that we need for work, because 608 and 708 captions, nobody ever does those, but Adobe Premiere can actually do those, and it's just like 2 clicks. It's amazing. So that saved our butt there today. So I guess quick tip: Adobe Premiere caption, use it.
Interesting. Well, thanks for that. Let's cue some music and say goodbye for now. Do subscribe to TVJAY if you're curious about all of this world of actual broadcast production, which is definitely not my channel. So lots of good content all over there. But thanks for joining, and
thank you.
We will see you again on the internet.
All right. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.